Welcome everybody. My name is Stacia Donaldson. I am a member of the Healthcare Simulation Week Committee. I'm also Director of Simulation at Mount St. Mary College in Newburgh, New York. And welcome to our chat on IPE. We have a great panel here today, and we're looking to have a nice conversation to celebrate Healthcare Simulation Week about IPE. So I'm going to let my panelists introduce themselves. So Lorraine, would you like to start?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. I'm Lorraine Sanasi. I am a physician assistant. I'm stationed in Queens, New York. I'm a physician assistant faculty, and I'm also the simulation corner at CUNY York College, right in Queens, New York. So I'm looking forward to discussing all the things related to IPE and hopefully learning from other panelists and from all of you as well.
Thanks, Lorraine. Will, how about you?
Awesome, thank you. My name is Walker Patrick. I'm a family nurse practitioner. I've been at F&P for about 2 years or so, but I went on a different journey. I'm a software nerd by background, so I went into start my own actual virtual reality company. So we help serve AI facilitated simulations. So that's a little bit about my background, but very excited to talk about IPE today and how it can be accessed. So thank you.
All right, welcome, Will. And finally, Dawn, tell us about yourself.
Yes, good afternoon and welcome everyone. I'm excited to have a chance to share what we do at University of South Florida Health, where I am the Director of Experiential Learning and Simulation for the Morsani College of Medicine. I work mostly with medical students, but I am on the IPE champion crew at USF Health, where we do a fairly large number of IPE activities, and I'm delighted to be able to share what we do and answer any questions that you guys may have.
Oh, thank you, Dawn. Welcome. All right, so shall we jump in? First question is going to be, what are the challenges to successful interprofessional education, and how have these challenges been addressed in your individual programs? Anyone like to start? Dawn.
I can go ahead to start. So the biggest challenges that we have in any IPE activity here at USF in Tampa is scheduling. So the medical students are on an annual schedule. The PA students are on an annual schedule that's a little bit different than the medical students. The nursing students are on a semester schedule. Some of them are on 36 months. Some of them are on, 3 years. It's insane, the difference in scheduling. So aligning when everybody can do an activity and being able to be available and have it fit into the curriculum has really been a challenge for USF. And what we've done is we came up with a series of modules that we teach each year. And we say, these are the 16 modules we're going to offer this year in interprofessional education. Here are dates that we have scheduled for them. We see if they can fit into medicine, nursing, pharmacy, physical therapy, athletic training, PA program, and whoever can fit in are the individuals who join us at that time. So we have a set of curriculum and we have a set of dates that we pitch these, and then whoever's available is how we have addressed meeting the scheduling challenge.
Yeah, Dawn, I don't think you're alone with scheduling being an issue. I think we can all relate to that. Yeah. Lorraine, you want to tell us a little bit about some of the challenges you faced with IPE?
Well, Dawn stole all the words out of my mouth. For definitely number one, 100%. I think another challenge is faculty preparedness. Not many faculty have been involved in IP, and there technically isn't any formal training for most faculty. So in our program, I work with nursing, occupational therapy, and social work. So we have basically like champions where we came together as a team to create scenarios. And then from there, we're working on developing faculty workshops to get faculty more involved and understanding how to standardize an IPE session. So thinking about how to guide students, how to pre-brief, how to debrief, and certain checklists that go underway to help the simulation be successful.
Thank you, Lorraine. And Will, you may have a different point of view on this. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your challenge?
I would say Dawn actually really hit it right on the nail there. On accessibility is definitely the biggest challenge that we see across all the institutions we partner with. Whether, I always say like, there's not just a bedside shortage, there's an educator shortage too. And you guys only have so much time to do simulation in general, and then also trying to gather everyone's schedules up, like Dawn said. And I really love the idea about the modules. So I see there's a question already about that. But that is one thing that we've really taken on as our company. That is all about it. It's accessibility. And, when you transition from nursing student to practice or whatever healthcare expertise you are, it's getting accessibility in the first place. And, IP is like super important. I remember when I came out of nursing school, and I didn't realize how much I did not know about what the nursing role was actually. And it's actually very insightful to see when you're actually you're working with respiratory therapy, you're working with PT, especially in the ICU, you see about everybody in there because the whole team is required to be involved, right? And I didn't necessarily understand that nursing is involved in all of them. You're kind of like the quarterback in a way, and like you're directing and making sure everybody's on the same page. So, when I came out of nursing school, I thought I was doing everything. Like I was going to put in not that I thought I was going to do the doctor's role and put in orders myself, but I thought I was responsible for that. As in, like, I need to make sure that I recommend every order and all those things. But it really is nice to, it's really important while you're in nursing school. And that's one thing that we've been really focused on is accessibility too. So,
yeah. Thank you. Yes, I think we can all agree. Those are some really great points. And I think they really hit on the challenges that a lot of us are facing. Next question is, what key elements of an IP experience, what are the key elements of an IP experience that promote unity and teamwork? So Lorraine, we'll let you go first. So, because I know Dawn's answer is going to be spot on and I want to give you a chance. So Lorraine, please let us know. Tell us, what kind of elements do you find promote unity and teamwork in IP?
I think the most important element is creating a scenario where all parties are involved. So you can't have a one-sided patient where it's just medical. There has to be some sort of psychosocial issue or something with medication related so that the students and all the participants feel like they have a role. Because you can just throw any case out there and they're just going to be like, okay, what do I do? And then there's no learning opportunities for everyone. So the point of the whole IP is to see what other disciplines do so that when they get out into the field, it's not a surprise. So having shared patient-centered goals and choosing a clinical problem that all of them can solve alone and together.
Awesome. Will, what do you think?
I agree. It's just making sure that everyone's involved, and kind of just back to my point earlier is that I quite literally did not know what other roles did. And seeing it in live time and then using it, together in a live scenario is so helpful. Like respiratory therapy, I know that I can suction, everything and do that, but I know when it is time to get the expert in the room, basically. Those are super important components of, healthcare, of course, and just knowing when, like I said, like from the nursing's perspective, anyways, I need to know when to call in. I'm the quarterback, as in the sense I'm always with my patient. I need to know what role is necessary for what I'm seeing. So. Totally agree with Lorraine. Yeah.
And Dawn,
So
key elements.
We frame most of our activities in the IPEC competencies, which tend to be broad enough for all of our learners to be able to access. I agree with the scenario. I think it's really important to have a scenario that has everybody have a role to play in it. But if they're framed with the foundation of the competencies, that's usually around some kind of communication tools and teamwork and, things of ethics, things of, making sure roles and definitions are there. So our objectives are always, that's where we start with that. We start, which IPEC competency are we working on? And then we build out from there. And that gives everybody a chance to be a partner and a part of the scenarios.
Awesome. Thank you, Dawn. My next question is, what is one unexpected outcome you've observed during an IPE experience? So maybe something that went right or didn't go so right. Let's start with Will this time.
Sounds good. I might, since I don't directly work with students, I'm kind of in the background. I might not be the best person to answer this right off the bat, but just in general, I think I can really speak on the practical side of it all. Mm-hmm. I guess just going off of my own experience as a nursing student, what we've seen with other partners using it. basically is that the fact that they quite literally did not understand the roles around them. I keep making the same point, but I really do feel like that is the beauty of IPE, where you really do get to see the other roles playing alongside and when to actually work alongside each other. I do think one unexpected outcome, and Dawn kind of just pointed to it, is the communication aspect. I think when you do have other roles in the room, it's not just, your peers and nurses that are all in the same role, basically. When you do have other roles, you kind of start understanding, I think, how everyone interviews a little differently. They're focused on different things. So I think just being able to actually be in the scenario, immersed into it with other disciplines is a huge deal, because, you can only guess, like, doing an SBAR with a physician or something like that. Like, yes, you can practice with your instructor, but when you're actually in the scenario, you know how to like focus and do that. So I think just the communication aspect and reducing medical errors is a one thing that I guess it can be expected but unexpected at the same time. So that's, I guess, my view on that. So
Awesome.
yeah.
Well, thank you. Dawn, would you like to?
Yes, I think communication definitely, clarity on role definition. Oh, I didn't realize you did that. That's cool. Thank you. I'm good to know. Or friendships that have developed across disciplines, which have been really joyful to watch. But the most important thing that I've seen, because I also teach the patient safety class, which is an IPE, is that they'll come to me and say, we learned this activity, we learned the SBAR, or we learned how to do a handoff or whatever. And we actually did that like the other day. And I had a patient that did 1, 2, and 3. And thank goodness I had practice, because I knew I could call my nurse practitioner or the pharmacist to come and assist me at bedside. And I think that's the most joyful thing, because while we don't always see interprofessional action at work in the clinical sense, it's in some fields, but not in all fields. When the students are learning it, it's a grassroots. So they come into the workforce saying, yeah, I want to do this. This is something important to me. So
Awesome. And Lorraine.
Well, I definitely agree with both Will and Dawn. I think something unexpected is when I see how much respect students start to develop for other disciplines, because we're in our own little world every day. We learn what we need to learn, and we think we're the most important person in the room all the time. Not that anything's wrong with that, but then you realize, wow, there's other people that exist. And then one of our PA students, after the simulation we did for a stroke patient with discharge. So one of the students said, for the first time, I saw the patient as everyone's responsibility, not just the doctor or the nurses or the social worker. So they realize, this is collaboration. I can do what I can do, but it's done better if we work all together. And that's like the most beautiful part about the IPE, when they get that realization.
Yeah, I love that. And if I may add to that, actually, the respect is huge, and the accountability part of it all. Like, you really do understand like what your role actually is. Because if you're in your own silo and you think, like, when I came out of nursing school, I thought I was supposed to do everything, but you don't realize like there are so many other roles that are better at than you are at certain things. Nursing, you have to know about everything. But you're not necessarily the best person for every single thing your patient needs, obviously. And then I actually had an instructor once, and I really love this idea, and this may be something that people can take with them on this, is they had like 3rd or 4th year nursing students, and then like 1st or 2nd year medical doctors that haven't quite yet got to the NIH stroke scale yet, and so they had the nursing students kind of knew more about the concept and the topic more than the physicians did. And it actually helped a lot with the respect part of it. So like that was a pretty cool way, and that kind of brought in my mind when Lorraine brought that up, is that that is a huge thing, and it goes both ways. It's not just physicians and nursing, but I think that was a pretty cool thing that they did. So
Awesome. Excellent. And this is and I think this next question kind of is an overarching theme in simulation. How do you measure effectiveness when you're doing IPE? I can imagine with multiple disciplines, it might be a little bit difficult to measure that. Dawn, would you like to start?
Sure. So we've noted that over the last 10 or 12 years that we've been doing IPE, it has gradually sunk into the accreditation bodies. So it's in medicine, it's in nursing, it's in pharmacy. So everybody is having to do IPE as part of their accreditation. So we can track it through surveys and through exams. We do a pre and post survey with every activity we do, in which we are tracking behavior changes and skill set changes. But we also do a survey 6 months after graduation. Tell us if this has been something you've seen in, you practice this in your undergraduate work. Now that you're in the field, are you still seeing this? Is this something that you're having, you're seeing as a change in the way that you've trained? So in addition to having the physical survey changes, we actually are observing it in the field as well. So I'll go into the field and say, just do a drop and learn. Like, are you doing handoffs? Are you doing documentation the way that, a team would be documenting, things of that nature? So it is check and balance more than anything else.
Awesome. Lorraine, how about you? Measure effectiveness.
IP is pretty new in our college, so it's we're hitting the ground running. So pre and post surveys, of course. Following the IPEC, the domains, thinking about, are the students feeling like they've received respect, dignity? Did they experience diversity? Do they understand their roles and responsibilities? And did they feel like they were able to communicate effectively, not only with each other, but with the patient and with their family members? And then from a different perspective, we need to know how they felt and how they feel we can change it, because they're the ones experiencing it, right? So if we don't know, we think we created this beautiful scenario, and then they're like, oh, it didn't do anything for us. So one type of tool is, I don't know if you guys know about it, it's called the SET-M, the Simulation Effectiveness Tool. So really assessing the pre-briefing, was the simulation orientation adequate? Did the students understand what they were about to get into? Did the learning actually enhance their knowledge, their critical thinking, their decision-making? Were they able to connect with others? Did they feel more confident after the simulation? And more importantly, we know that the debriefing is the most important part of simulation. That's where they can take a moment to step back and see, like, what did I get out of this? And what are you giving to me during this debriefing moment? So using the simulation effectiveness tool has probably been the most helpful for us, just so we can, make it more student-centered and faculty-centered.
Yeah, no, I think that's important to get that feedback to grow. Will, you have any thoughts on effectiveness?
Yeah, Lorraine pretty much stole my answer. So, I guess to speak on more of the tactical part on how we are trying to score the effectiveness as well, is we kind of organize it in a sense where when you are in an IP scenario, you're individually being evaluated and also evaluated as a group entirely. So kind of like your perspective and then everyone else's perspective on your role, and then also the patient's perspective. So we kind of bring it in like a three-way evaluation there. And of course, I was just going to say debriefing is the biggest way to figure that out. But while you're in the scenario, like when you're in the debriefing, you can kind of look back and see, like, okay, here is my performance from my role. This is my role's evaluation. Like, okay, I did this and this correctly, did not do this correctly. So I can self-evaluate. And then also at the same time, I can look at the group. Okay, the respiratory therapist did this. I see that they didn't necessarily do some of their competencies correctly too. And I think that transparency is really important, because then that even brings in even more insight on what the other roles are responsible for and what their competencies are and what they need to achieve with their role. So that's been a huge thing for us just in general, being able to really see collaboration and debriefing. And yeah, I agree that SET-M is a huge tool too. So yeah.
Agreed. Well, Will, this next question is probably more up your alley. It involves technology. So how has technology, virtual reality, telehealth, expanded opportunities for IPE in your program? So Will, you get to start.
Yeah, that makes sense. This is
This is you.
Yeah, so No, so I will say the technology, obviously, it solves a lot of issues in any industry, and this has been a huge one. And I think when Dawn mentioned the accessibility part, and it's not just IPE, it's every aspect of simulation. We can talk any like single player, I guess you can say, simulation. You know, it's hard to get students in, and really the nice part, what we should all try to achieve is trying to get simulation in as a weekly basis. You tie it into every single theoretical concept you can possibly do that makes sense, because applying that learning is huge while you're in school. And that goes the same way with IPE, because nurses and other healthcare professionals really have never had the luxury of learning from their mistakes, like other industries. And I come from an athletic background, so that's you know, in football, you would watch yourself make mistakes over and over again. So if we have any football fans, your teams are getting better week after week because they're watching themselves make mistakes week after week, and then they improve week after week. Well, nurses and other healthcare professionals, you know, didn't necessarily have that luxury until technology came in and, you know, simulation came in, but we're still having the accessibility issue. So I think technology here, where we create multiplayer scenarios where they can be accessed globally. So I can be in Texas, you can be in Massachusetts right now, and we can be in the same scenario together. And you know, we don't have constraints on space, we don't have constraints on time necessarily, because the scheduling is much easier. It can be asynchronous even. And also we don't have constraints on educators, because the educators need as much help as anybody else. Like I said, there's an educator shortage. And then just doing the scheduling alone takes a lot of time and admin burden to do this, even without IPE. So just imagine, like Dawn said, like putting in multiple different disciplines and different directors and scheduling all out. I think technology is the answer for that. I really do. And kind of expanding it past just making it all on site, I think is going to be a huge deal. So that's something that everyone should keep their radar on, is that how can technology really expand your ability to do more and more simulation? So
awesome. Lorraine, what do you think?
You took the words out of my mouth again.
Oh no. You guys are all too good. You got such good ideas.
So
You want to add, Lorraine?
we're not really using much technology right now, but from my perspective, technology wise, you know, as a PA, I've worked in telemedicine previously. And I think it's a great opportunity for students to, you know, with standardized patients or even with faculty serving as a patient, whatever it may be, that students get an idea of what telemedicine is like, and that it's not as easy as it looks, because I think it's a joke. I think, oh, it's so easy. I sit behind a screen and I can just diagnose someone. But if you don't have that, you know, clinical acumen, and you don't have the skills that you develop in person, telemedicine can be very challenging and you can make a lot of mistakes. So I think from our perspective, we would use technology to help students understand what telemedicine is about, how it's an asset, but how it can also be dangerous if you don't know what you're doing. So that's my spiel.
It's a good spiel. Thanks, Lorraine. Dawn.
So I agree with both Will and Lorraine. Having a technology is really a bonus. Frequently, because we're a two-campus community, we have a campus several miles north of us, and having an opportunity to have them available on Teams even means that they can then participate in real time instead of having to everybody join somewhere and find a space big enough for every person to fit in, which is difficult. But even beyond that, having a thought that we would be able to practice with each other for telehealth, for instance, across communities or across the state line. I mean, I realize that for billing purposes, that's a whole different animal, but to have students learn, you know, you can contact your pharmacist even if they're not sitting next to you, and call them in to have that conversation with your patient that you're having live, and creating those scenarios that are robust enough so that there is a role for each person to play when you're doing a telemedicine. Because as Lorraine said, if you don't have the clinical acumen, you can't really answer the questions that the patients would have. So I haven't tried a virtual reality IPE activity yet. I think it sounds really interesting. And I mean, people would have to have enough headsets to be able to do that in a variety of different ways, but that sounds like a really cool thing to do.
Yeah, it does sound cool, doesn't it? All right. Well, thank you. I think we're at the end, and I think this is a very fitting kind of wrapping it up, what kind of advice would you give to faculty or institutions that are just starting out in IPE, or ones that maybe don't have either they are isolated geographically or just don't have other disciplines there at their disposal to do IPE with? Dawn, what's your advice?
I mean, my first advice is to find your champions, to find partners who want to do this. If you can find partners who wish to do IPE, that's a third of the battle right there. And then find a good champion within your leadership. When we approached our leadership 12 years ago, we said, we really would like to start breaking down silos and working together. And they were like, okay, let's rename us. We're not going to be University of South Florida. We're going to be USF Health. And suddenly all our silos were broken down, I guess. I don't know. But that, 10 years later, 12 years later, we're still working on the silos. But it's having your leadership buy into it, giving you the time, giving you the I don't get paid for doing IPE, but some people can get EVUs or time off from what they're doing to be purchased to practice and do this activity as a team. And having a collective is really important.
Awesome. Lorraine, have any advice for people just starting out?
Well, I 100% agree with Dawn. That was one of my pieces of advice. The second one is really to start small. Don't think you have to make this huge scenario with hundreds of disciplines. It's about, let's start maybe with 2, then start with 3. Again, find your champions, come up with scenarios that are grounded in collaboration. You got to find patient scenarios that match and allow all students and all participants to be involved. So something like discharge planning or like a sepsis management, end of life care. You have to make sure you're choosing wisely, and then thinking how you have to predict the scenarios, like thinking about, these are my people and this is what might happen. Let's make sure that each of them have a role. Because if you can't answer that, then that's not a viable case. And then really making the debrief a priority. Like that's, again, the biggest part. The simulation sets the stage, but the real transformation happens in the debrief, because they're in the moment. And, when you're in a moment, you're not really learning per se, you're just going with the flow. And then during that debrief, if it's organized enough and you give them enough time to safely reflect, and then think about what went right, what went wrong. Did I communicate well? What did I learn? How can I take this out with me to the clinical world? Then this becomes an effective simulation. So it's really all about the debrief. It should be as structured as possible, and all of the faculty should be on the same page.
Awesome. And Will, maybe advice for integrating technology into IPE, something that I think all programs kind of struggle with.
Yeah, I think so. And I would, just going off of Dawn and Lorraine's point, I think first of all, finding a champion who's willing to do the technology piece of it. Because of course it's always a challenge changing up things, because technology will change the way, not necessarily the way you do sim, but the way you organize it and implement it. But I actually, Lorraine's point with the debriefing, I think is a huge thing, and just in general, like focusing on that. And what technology really will allow you to do is the transparency part of it all and the practical piece of it all at the same time. Because yes, we obviously are wanting to standardize the way we do our education, where you have competencies, all those things. Those are all great. But at the same time, when you get out in the real world, things are very unpredictable with patients. Things are never as organized as you want them to be. And people are always trying to improve. Every discipline is trying to improve how they treat their patients. So I think just giving them that, even if it's a scenario like Lorraine said, it's very focused on certain things that they may get to observe in the clinical site, but they won't understand until they get in the shoes. So just truly getting into that understanding, like I am the one responsible now. Yes, I have my team here with me, but I am responsible for these things. And once it comes time to debrief, I think it's really important to break down the barriers, as Dawn said, and just like literally share everything. Like, I know that you are responsible for this, and these are the things that that you all need to get better at. And then how reflective is that for even myself to understand as a nurse? Like, okay, well, how could I have helped them reach that? Like, we're all on the same team here. Yes, the patient is the focus in the scenario, but also at the same time, we need to figure out how we can work better, because we all know that there's lots of opportunity out in, the real field. So I guess that's my spiel on that. But yeah, as in technology, I think finding a champion is always the first step. That's always the challenge there. And yeah, figuring out how you guys can organize the scheduling, because it's going to be more difficult at first, but once you find that ability to implement it, it's going to be really scalable for you. So
Awesome. Thank you. That's some good advice about technology. I'm looking in the chat. There was one question about and I think Dawn and Lorraine, maybe you can just quickly touch on this. The accreditation requirements. Is there direction given by the accrediting bodies on how to do IPE, or do you have to kind of go it on your own?
So I know from my end, it's sort of, they have no specifics. They don't want to have, you've done this or this or this. We interpreted it with, how are we working together and how many hours are we working together and what can we say we're doing effectively and efficiently that's true IPE, not just people are sitting in a room together and they're in a lecture. That's not really IPE, but we offer 90 hours each year for each of the learners throughout USF Health. Some do all 90, some do 45, some do 25. We put out what we have through our academic console, and then in those who are writing the accreditation documents, they at least say our students are prepared doing these 4 modules, these 8 modules on an annual basis, and that's what we turn in. But each program is not prescriptive. It's not like you have to do 16 hours of this and 15. It's not like some of the other stuff that they prescribe. It's very vague. And so most of our leaders know that if they can say they can talk to this, that's what they're using.
Awesome. How about Lorraine? Do you have any guidance from accrediting bodies, or are you kind of flying solo as well?
Well, the ARC-PA, which is for the physician assistant education, they don't have this, it's very vague language. So they do require programs to foster interprofessional practice and collaboration from different professions, but you're flexible in how you do it. So at the end of the day, you have to prove in some sense, usually through simulation, how they've demonstrated competence in interprofessional communication, teamwork, and their role recognition.
Awesome.
So we use simulation to kind of show that and document that.
Yeah. No, I think I mean, simulations seems like a great fit for that. And it's nice that they kind of trust us to make the best of it and get that programming going. Well, thank you very much to all of our panelists. That was a wonderful conversation about IPE. I don't see any additional questions in the chat, so I think we will wrap this up. Again, thank you for your insight, and I think I could say to contact you guys if anybody has any questions. Everyone's good with that?
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you very much, everybody. Happy Healthcare Simulation Week. Everybody have a great day or evening.
thank you.
Here,
Thanks for your time. Bye-bye.
Bye.